Guys, I'm just going to admit it. I am afraid of marriage. I'm afraid of commitment, afraid of marriage. In today's video, I'm going to touch on a few key reasons why, as a 30-year-old male in today's contemporary society, why I'm so afraid of marriage, guys. 54% of marriages fail. So, roughly flip a coin. That's the odds your marriage is going to work out or not. Now, people say, oh, I don't believe in divorce. It doesn't align with my religious views, right? But people change, man. People change. Humans change. 54% chance it's going to work out. If you don't have a prenup in place, guys, this is my biggest fear, losing half of my assets to a girl, right? So 50% chance I'll lose maybe 50% of my assets, right? Does that seem smart to you, right? And we know with hypergamy, we know with the abundance of options, we know with the way that women's brains are wired, right? If things aren't going well for like a year, you're married for 3 years, the last year was really rough, they might say, you want to know what? You're incentivizing the girl to leave you. She'll say, you know what? I could just leave this guy. The spark has died out. I'll take half of his money and I'll move on with my life. I'm hot. I could get a guy whenever I want, right? So not having a prenup in place, that's a massive fear of mine. Imagine, instead of retiring at 49 years old, if you get divorced, right? Now you're retired at 69 years old, right? So you got to do 20 more years of this corporate bullshit because of a bad decision you made, right? A marriage that didn't work out, right? That's horrible, guys. And this is happening to men all over society. Number two is no more cold approaching, right? Cold approaching is the thing that brings me the most joy, brings me the most adrenaline. It reinforces my confidence in myself, right? When I walk into a Whole Foods, if I talk to a hot chick, I'm like, wow, I'm the 0.00001% of males in the world that could actually do this and do it successfully and confidently, right? It reinforces my self-belief. It shows me how much progress I've made in my life, right? So never cold approach a girl again, never get on a dating app again, never have sex with another girl again. That's a huge opportunity cost, guys. I just banged this chick last night off a dating app, right? I could get with girls whenever I want, right? I could have a rotation. I've had rotations of 4 girls at a time, right? So now you could never get with another girl again. Now, people say have a polyamorous relationship, have threesomes with your wife. But if I'm married, guys, I want it to be monogamous. I don't want my wife being with other people. So, no more sex with other women, right? One vagina for the rest of your life, right? After you bang the girl 500 times, right? It seems a little it seems like not as good as a sexual outlet as opposed to variety, right? That's the way men are biologically wired. Another reason why, guys, is just being way too intermingled, right? I'm an introvert by nature. That shocks a lot of people, but I need my alone time to recharge. So imagine living with someone, right? I've never lived with a significant other before, but imagine just you're up their ass 24/7 every day. And then you got to go to sleep in the same bed too? Are you kidding me? I was talking to someone yesterday, like, why can't we just like have sex, cuddle, and then I go in my own bedroom and I fall asleep, right? And just, can I get a little alone time, right? Can I get a good night's sleep, please? And then in the morning, wake up, see each other, right? Make breakfast together and continue on, right? But can I get a little alone time? Can I feel refreshed and rejuvenated, right? I wake up every morning at 6, 7 a.m. to go take a piss. The girl's going to wake up to go take a piss, right? We wake up at different times. We want to go to bed at different times, right? The shit just, it's hard to get a good night's sleep, man. Another reason is kids, right? I'm not opposed to kids. I'm not. But with kids, in my opinion, comes a complete loss of freedom, right? Your life is no longer about yourself. You have no time for yourself anymore. So you're just this guy that's providing and having to bust your ass for a wife and kids to support them. And you don't really get much time to focus on your own wants and needs and priorities as well. I was with a buddy a few years back. There were some MILFs at a sports bar. We were talking to them. Long story short, it made sense organically with the conversation. But I asked the woman, she was divorced, beautiful woman for her age. I said, what do men gain in marriage? What is the value that men get out of marriage? And she straight up, like a beautiful 48-year-old woman, she said they get sex. And I just look at her like, really? So they have all of these opportunity costs, all of these risks that they're assuming for sex. Like, if you really know what you're doing, if you could cold approach, if you have the right dating app strategy, the right nightlife, day game strategy, if you're a high value male, if you put the work in, like the whole root of this freaking channel, guys, you could get sex whenever you want from numerous women. So sex, that's like the last reason I would get married. And there's a lot of guys, a lot of beta males, a lot of simps, right? The second, and I've known many people like this in my life. The second they get consistent puss, they just lock it down, right? Because they don't have the inner belief or even the know-how that, wow, I could get this whenever I want, or I could get this with numerous girls. So the second they get consistent puss, they get complacent. They have a scarcity mentality, not an abundance mentality, and they lock it down and they get married. And you know, my fear, guys, my ultimate fear about this, I want to get. I always say I'll give it a shot with one really special girl. Maybe I'll get married one day. But my fear, guys, is 25% of people in our generation will never get married and will be childless. Right? That's a fact. Go look it up. 25% of everyone will never be married or have kids. My fear, because I see the way the world works, I see the way societal programming is if you're not married, like if you're 41 and you're handsome as shit and you're successful as shit and you're just not married, a lot of people look at you like, dude, what is this guy's issue? Like, this is weird. He must have an issue. What's wrong with him? They try to dig for all these deep down issues he must have. Is like he insecure? Does he have a small dick? Is he gay? Is he just like have a bad personality? Does he not, like, what is wrong with this guy? So you become like a social outcast, a social pariah. Your friends that you have that are clicked up, wifed up. It's very rare that you'd be hanging out with friends where you just be third wheeling all the time, right? So my fear is becoming, if I continue this, right? I'm 30 years old. If I'm 40, 45 and single, I fear becoming a social outcast if I don't get married. You know, the last example I'll give you guys is I'm going to a work conference next week. And a lot of these guys are 45, 50 years old. They're average in every way. They have a beer belly. They have an average wife that I would never, never pursue. Average wife, average life. And they'll look at me, right? And I'm one of the most handsome guys in the room. And I don't mean that egotistically, just factually. I'm younger than a lot of them, but I'm still about to be 31. And they'll be like, what's Eric's issue? I worked with him for years. Why is he single? Like, something must be wrong. And from my point of view, what goes through my head is, dude, I just banged chicks this weekend. I have 3 girls on speed dial I could call at any point in time. It will put out for me. I'm free. I'm a sovereign man. Your wife is ugly as hell, and I would never date your wife, let alone hook up with her. And the joke's on you, man. I got freedom and sexual abundance. Like, you're tied down, and you have financial risk in your equation as well. So, guys, these are just a few of my thoughts regarding marriage. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback in the comments below. I know some of these views, they're a little depressive to a degree, but I'm just being super vulnerable, super honest with you guys. And, I just love your feedback. So again, I appreciate my subscribers. And I'll see you in the next video.